Hey folks, so a little while ago I did a review of a game called Darkest Night by Victory Point Games and designed by Jeremy Leonard. And it was a game that I liked a lot. Cooperative game, great theme, fantasy theme. It felt a little bit like Pandemic, but I much prefer the fantasy theme of this game, and I recommend this to people as such. I thought it was fairly difficult. And if you had asked me at the time, and up to this point, I probably would have said, it doesn't really need an expansion. It felt like a complete game. An expansion wouldn't hurt, but whatever. Well, Victory Point Games definitely thought that it needed an expansion, and they put out With an Inner Light, also by Jeremy Leonard, and it expands upon Darkest Night directly. Now, one interesting thing I'll mention right off the bat is that this was exclusively from Cool Stuff Inc. As far as I know, unless you're buying it from third party, I don't know that you can buy this from any other retailer, although I haven't really investigated it. So if you want it, you definitely should go to Cool Stuff Inc. and see if they, coolstuffinc.com, and see if they still have some in stock. But basically what this game adds, well, first off, it adds an extra large Necromancer piece, which I didn't think I wanted until I actually had it out there, and it is much easier to tell which piece is a Necromancer and which are the heroes. But it also adds a new mechanic in the form of a quest deck. There can now be quests that the heroes can go on, and also adds 4 new heroes to the game, which all have their own different and unique kind of mechanics that also add to the game as well. And there's also a new game mode, which may make the game more difficult for you, but definitely makes it more interesting. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at what actually comes in this expansion. Then we're going to come back, and I'll let you know if you should definitely purchase this for your copy of Darkest Night. Alright folks, let's briefly go over some of the new stuff that's in With an Inner Light, the expansion for Darkest Night. So a couple of things right off the bat. Of course, you need the Darkest Night core game in order to use With an Inner Light. And also the map is from the core game. It does not come with the expansion. I'm just leaving it out so I can show you some of the new mechanics. So first of all, the game comes with a new standee for the Necromancer that is much bigger than his old one, and so it's much easier to tell apart from the heroes when you're moving around the map. Although actually, if you ever have the Necromancer in the monastery, you have much bigger problems than the standee. Alright, so let's go to the heroes that come with this set. And there are 4 new heroes, and they come with all the different stuff that the other heroes came with as far as components. First we have the Crusader, and the Crusader is all about using Grace, which are effectively your life points in this game. But he can basically consume his own Grace to use different special abilities that make him much better at combat. But of course that comes at a cost, and if he uses up too much Grace, then he's going to be in quite a bind. That makes him really good with the Priest, by the way. But let's take a look at some of his character cards. Starting with his basic ones. We have Wrath here, which is he can spend a Grace to fight with 4 dice. That's pretty great. Anointed, as a bonus power, you can get +1 to your default Grace, +1 die when praying. Defiance, whenever you fail a combat, you may spend 1 Secrecy to gain 1 Grace. In Providence, you can spend a Grace to search, then roll 1 die, and gain a treasure chest if you roll greater than or equal to your location's search difficulty. So as you see, everything is all about Grace. Then we have Radiance here, which I thought was kind of neat because it actually lets you affect the darkness track. -1 darkness if you roll a 6, not a 7, while fighting the Necromancer or attempting a quest. And we'll get to what quests are in a little bit if you've never heard of those before. So, next character, let's go to the Monk, who is probably my personal favorite. I love monks in any kind of fantasy setting. And the Monk has very unusual powers in that they rely on separate key power in order to activate the key bonuses of other cards. Let me just show you. With the Monk cards, first, this is one of the most important cards you have in your starting cards, the Key Burst. As you can see, the only power that it has is that as a bonus you can exhaust it to use the key effect from one of your other powers, which are, with Patience, its normal tactic power lets you fight with 3 dice if the darkness is odd, or 1 if it's even, but as a key tactic you can do as above but add 1 to your highest die. Quiet lets you elude with 2 dice, but if you have used your key power, you can elude with 5 dice and gain a Secrecy if you roll a 6. Clarity lets you add 1 to your highest die when searching, and as a key bonus you can use after a search to choose a reveal from another location. So basically you'll take the map card and use whichever, if you use your key bonus, you can choose whatever treasure you want from any location on that card. Gather Key, you can, as a bonus, activate if you experience an event with a fate of 4 or more. That's the number up on top of the cards. If it's active, you can deactivate it to use the chi effect from one of your powers. So everything's about activating your chi, using it to get really neat abilities, in my opinion. Then we have the Paragon, who, as you can see, there's a lot of characters that are sort of iterations of the Knight, but they're all a little bit different. The Paragon uses auras, basically to buff himself and to help the party out. He's got some pretty cool powers as well. We have Steadfastness. As a bonus, you get +1 die on rolls to defend against blights and +1 die when attempting a quest. Like I said, we'll get to quests in a little bit. Effusion, you can gain 2 grace. If you have any active auras, you must deactivate one, and all heroes at your location gain a grace. Rebuke, you can fight with 2 dice. If you have any active auras, you must deactivate one and add 3 more dice. Really, really cool. Here's another one of his auras. You can activate and choose a type of blight, and all heroes at your location ignore the effect of that type of blight. Infallibility, exhaust to add 1 to the result of a die you just rolled. And Aura of Humility, another aura. Heroes at your location cannot be detected by the Necromancer. All really good stuff. And finally, we'll take a look at the Shaman. So the Shaman is all about totems, which are essentially like auras, but they have some more unusual and really powerful effects. So in the basic cards, you have the Dove Totem. Activated in your current location, and you get to roll 6 dice. For each 3 or more rolled, one hero at this location may gain a grace. Not a totem power, but ancestral power. You exhaust before any die roll to add 2 die to that roll. Spirit Sight. The start of your turn, if there is no map card on this power, draw 1 and place it here. You may return it to the top of the map deck at any time. Pretty cool. +1 die on event rolls, including fighting and eluding for events. When you hide, you may gain secrecy. Let's take a look at a couple other totems. Hydra Totem. You get to roll 8 dice. For each 6 rolled, destroy 1 blight in this location. That's really, really cool if it works out well. The Rabbit Totem, you get to roll 5 dice. For each 2 or more rolled, one hero at this location may gain 1 secrecy up to 5 and refresh a power. The Hippogriff Totem. Each hero at this location may move to any other. Each other hero may move here. Really, really cool stuff. So that's basically all the heroes, and of course, just like all the other heroes, they come with their own little standees that you have to do a little bit of assembly to. But let's look at some of the other components before we go any further. The game comes with a bunch of new cards for the different decks, including for the Artifact deck. These just have some generally universally good powers. So the Fellowship, by the way, I should mention that you can always differentiate the new expansion cards from the old ones, all the components, by this little symbol down in the corner. Anyways. The Fellowship Band, you can exhaust during your turn to swap locations with another hero. The Aegis, you can exhaust instead of dying or losing a turn. That's really great. The Blessed Ankh, you can exhaust after any die roll to add 1 die. The Prayer Beads, you may pray at any location. Can be really, really useful. You can usually only pray at the monastery. And the Hymnal, after you pray, one hero of your choice at any location with less grace than you gains a grace. Pretty good stuff. And there is new stuff for the event deck, including the introduction of a brand new mechanic to the game. But let's look at some of the other ones first. So Dark Tempest, which has got a lot of stuff on it. You can roll 3 die and pick and resolve any 2. And basically some good stuff, mostly bad stuff, of course. Desperate Bargain is a neat little card. Choose 1, destroy a blight or draw a power card, or raise your secrecy to default. Then choose 1, which is basically something bad has to happen to you. And then you have a bunch of new cards that are all about bringing out quests, which are the new mechanic of the game. And they all do it in different ways, and increasing urgency. So Urgent Plea is you draw a quest and roll a die to determine its location, then add a time marker to it, which is bad. Panic, add a time marker to a quest currently in play. If there is no quest in play, then instead draw a quest and roll a die to determine a location, then add a die marker to it. Startling News, add a die marker to a quest currently in play. If there is no quest in play, then instead draw a quest and roll a die. And Grim Tidings, which is probably the weakest one, just draw a quest and roll a die to determine its location. Now, what are those quests? Well, you have this quest deck over here, and what I like is there's a lot of these quests, and every one of them is different. And whenever one of those cards tells you to draw a quest, you're going to draw one from the deck, you're going to roll the die, and you're going to treat it as if you're determining where the Necromancer is moving if he was moving from the village. So, for instance, if I rolled a 3 on the die, going from the village, that would indicate the forest. So that's where I'm going to put the quest card. And you just put it off to the side, or wherever it's convenient for you to remember where the location is. And let me show you some examples of the quests and what they do. So, for example, you have Tribute here. So all the quests have really cool flavor text. It's going to give you a little more theme to the game. And basically, wherever this is at the location, the hero is going to have to try to either interact with it or just let it go. So, the little time marker up here in the corner. There are these little time tokens that come with the game. On one side is time, and the other is a progress symbol. But if there are ever a number of time tokens on this card equal to or greater than the number next to the hourglass, then this quest fails, and the heroes are going to have to take a penalty, which is down here at the bottom of the card, the expired thing. So if this quest were to expire, a blight gets put out at the tribute section, following the normal rules for putting out a blight. The other symbol, however, is the progress symbol. If the heroes ever successfully take an action to complete the quest and meet or beat the number of progress tokens necessary for it to complete, in this case for tribute is just 1, they're going to get the completed section of the card. The card will be removed from the board, and then they get an artifact in this case. The action that they need to take is right underneath the flavor text. So for tribute, you need to do a fight check versus 5. Each success they roll is a progress, and like I said, you only need 1. Now the time markers are going to come out during the Necromancer step, the Necromancer's phase. It essentially adds another step right after you move the darkness meter. You're going to check to see if there's any active quests out on the board, and you're going to put a time marker on every one. And as soon as it piles up and gets to be too many, then it will expire. So you need to worry about completing that first, although you might just go ahead and let the quest go if the penalty is not too bad and you have bigger, better things to worry about. Let's go ahead and take a look at a few other ones. You have Ancient Curse. This one is also 5 time but needs 2 progress tokens to go. The action for this one is to roll 2 die, add a progress marker for each die that rolls a 4 or more, and you actually get a key if you complete it successfully, but if you let it expire, all the heroes are going to lose a grace. The Dark Tower, this one's kind of cool because if you succeed, you're actually going to be able to move the darkness track down 2, but if you fail, you gain 2 on the darkness track. The Rogue Reaper is going to give you one of the Epiphany special bonuses. It expires, it's going to move up the darkness track. Collaborators is going to give you a treasure chest, but if it expires, each hero has to draw an event card. You have your Zombie Horde, blah, blah, blah. And then you have Nightmares. And the reason I wanted to show you the Nightmares card is because if you complete it, you actually get another new thing to this game, which is Charm Token. Charm Tokens are these little things here, and there's only 2 of them in the game. But basically, you can spend a Charm Token after you make a die roll to re-roll any or all the die that you rolled. So, that's basically how Quest works. Now, there's one other thing we should talk about, and that there is a new variant to the game using the Quest cards that can make the game quite a bit more difficult. And it involves the Necromancer and the Quest cards. So, let's say that this is called the Pall of Suffering variant. Basically, if you choose to do this variant, you'll start the game with 1 quest out in the village already. And every time that you have to move the Necromancer, if you roll a 3 or a 4 on the die, you're going to drop a new quest at the location before he moves. And basically, that's going to make a lot more quests spring up on the map. And that means that it's even more likely the quests are going to expire if the heroes can't get to them. Now, the problem with this is, underneath the Pall of Suffering variant, every quest that expires, not only do you take the penalty for it having expired, but you're going to take the expired quest and you're going to put it face down near the darkness track. These cards of the expired quests basically function as shields for the Necromancer. Every time you go to attack the Necromancer, normally you have to first defeat any and all blights that are in his area, then you get a shot at the Necromancer. Now, before you can even get to the blights, you have to successfully attack the Necromancer, and instead of dealing damage or getting rid of a blight, you just remove one of the cards from his pall. And you're going to have to do that for as many cards as are out there. Another way to get rid of them, however, is if you successfully complete other quests. But basically, this adds another layer of challenge to the game because it's that much more difficult to take out the Necromancer. And that's basically all that comes with an Inner Light expansion for Darkest Night. Now let's go back to my final thoughts.
Well, like I said in my intro, I felt The Darkest Night was a pretty good game in and of itself, and I never really felt the need for it to have another expansion. Expansions are always nice, but whatever. I still would have liked and kept the game. But this is one of those situations where when I actually got the expansion and played with it, I was like, wow, I am never ever playing without this expansion again. This completes the game. Now, it's not just because of the heroes or the large Necromancer token, although that is nice, I have to say. And the heroes are interesting. Now, two of them in particular that I personally played with in the few games that we played with the expansion, the Crusader and the Monk. The Crusader is really cool because it has a sort of push your luck aspect. He has a lot of grace, and you can spend it to get some really kick-butt abilities. But how much are you willing to bet on that? How much are you willing to sacrifice? Now, if you have a priest in your party, which we did once, just by pure coincidence, we weren't even looking at their powers. This was the first time playing with the expansion. That really works well together. The priest is giving the hero grace or sacrificing his grace to give the hero grace, and then you're getting really awesome abilities with that. Worked really well together. One of the times I played the monk is really interesting because more than any other hero, I had to make the tough distinction of, do I want to rest and get my powers back? How much more useful is it to me to just keep going and forget about my key focus abilities? I turned into a bit of a search monkey with the monk, and that's fine. I don't really mind that because it really felt cool and awesome. And I don't know. I'm not sure how thematic it felt for the monk to just be searching around for keys the whole time, but he really, really worked well and was definitely an interesting change of pace with the key focus and all of that stuff. Now, the real selling point of this expansion, if you have the base game, and you felt like it needed either a little more challenge, a little more variance to it, or maybe it just wasn't tough enough for you, or you just felt it was incomplete. It's the quest cards leading into the Pall of Suffering variance. Now, those quest cards are just another thing that the heroes are going to have to worry about. That's going to, it's not just that you have to worry about them failing, but it's that it's going to give you bonuses if you want them. So some of them, sometimes they'll give you a key, which is awesome too, but what if a quest pops open on the other side of the map? Is it worth going all the way over there to solve that quest when you could just spend more time searching or getting rid of some blights before they quote-unquote outbreak? So that in and of itself adds a little variety to the gameplay for the heroes, but also the Pall of Suffering. The thought that now the game is going to be more challenging because if you don't take care of those quests, if you just let them go, they're going to make the Necromancer that much more powerful. I really feel like that should have been integrated from the start of the game now that I've seen it in action, and maybe it always was, but they just didn't have the time to get it going. Now, having said all that, I really like that, but having said all that, I don't think that this changes fundamentally what Darkest Night is all about, and I think that the component of the quality of the components is still the same as it ever was, which might be a deal breaker for some people. I don't think it is for me. It's okay. The map hasn't expanded at all, which I know some people were complaining about. You still have the same locations to go to, and if they ever do another expansion, I think that's the thing that they need the most, is more locations. But nevertheless, it's still a good game. And I think that if you buy Darkest Night, you shouldn't necessarily buy this right away, even if you can, because apparently it's some sort of exclusive. But you shouldn't necessarily buy this right away with the base game. You need to play the game first because it doesn't change that much. But if you do end up liking Darkest Night after a few plays, you got to get this expansion somehow. It's really going to help the length of replayability of this game and the variety. I like it quite a bit for a game that I already liked quite a lot, and I do recommend it. So, my name is Nick. This has been Board Game Brawl, reminding you to get out there and game every day and in every way. Take care.